Chapter 40 of Eben Holden. This Librivox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Roger Moline. Eben Holden, A Tale of the North Country, by Irving Bacheller. Chapter 40. But now I have better things to write of, things that have some relish of good in them. I was very weak and low from loss of blood for days, and suddenly the tide turned. I had won recognition for distinguished gallantry, they told me, that day they took me to Washington. I lay 3 weeks there in the hospital. As soon as they heard of my misfortune at home, Uncle Eb wrote he was coming to see me. I stopped him by a telegram, assuring him that I was nearly well and would be home shortly. My term of enlistment had expired when they let me out a fine day in mid-August. I was going home for a visit as sound as any man, but, in the horse talk of Faraway, I had a little blemish on the left shoulder. Uncle Eb was to meet me at the Jersey City depot. Before going, I, with others who had been complimented for bravery, went to see the President. There were some 20 of us summoned to meet him that day. It was warm, and the great Lincoln sat in his shirt sleeves at a desk in the middle of his big office. He wore a pair of brown carpet slippers, the rolling collar and black stock now made so familiar in print. His hair was tumbled. He was writing hurriedly when we came in. He laid his pen away and turned to us without speaking. There was a careworn look upon his solemn face. "Mr. President," said the general who had come with us, "here are some of the brave men of our army whom you wish to see." He came and shook hands with each and thanked us in the name of the Republic for the example of courage and patriotism we and many others had given to the army. He had a lean, tall, ungraceful figure, and he spoke his mind without any frill or flourish. He said only a few words of good plain talk and was done with us. "Which is Brower?" he inquired presently. I came forward more scared than ever I had been before. "My son," he said, taking my hand in his, "why didn't you run?" "Didn't dare," I answered. "I knew it was more dangerous to run away than to go forward." "Reminds me of a story," said he, smiling. "Years ago there was a bully in Sangamon County, Illinois, that had the reputation of running faster and fighting harder than any man there. Everybody thought he was a terrible fighter. He'd always get a man on the run. Then he'd catch up and give him a licking. One day he tatted a lame man. The lame man licked him in a minute. 'Why didn't ye run?' somebody asked the victor. 'Didn't dast,' said he. 'Run once when he tackled me, and I've been lame ever since.' 'How did you manage to lick him?' said the other. 'Well,' said he, 'I had to, and I done it easy.' 'That's the way it goes,' said the immortal president. 'You do it easy if you have to.' He reminded me in and out of Horace Greeley, although they looked no more alike than a hawk and a handsaw. But they had a like habit of forgetting themselves and of saying neither more nor less than they meant. They both had the strength of an ox and as little vanity. Mr. Greeley used to say that no man could amount to anything who worried much about the fit of his trousers. Neither of them ever encountered that obstacle. Early next morning I took a train for home. I was in soldier clothes, and I had with me no others, and all in the car came to talk with me about the now famous Battle of Bull Run. The big platform at Jersey City was crowded with many people as we got off the train. There were other returning soldiers, some with crutches, some with empty sleeves. A band at the further end of the platform was playing, and those near me were singing the familiar music, "John Brown's body lies a-mouldering in the grave." Somebody shouted my name. Then there rose a cry of 3 cheers for Brower. It's some of the boys of the Tribune, I thought. I could see a number of them in the crowd. One brought me a basket of flowers. I thought they were trying to have fun with me. "Thank you," said I, "but what is the joke?" "No joke," he said. "It's to honor a hero." "Oh, you wish me to give it to somebody." I was warming with embarrassment. "We wish you to keep it," he answered. In accounts of the battle I had seen some notice of my leading a charge, but my fame had gone farther, much farther indeed, than I knew. I stood a moment laughing, an odd sort of laugh it was that had in it the salt of tears, and waving my hand to the many who were now calling my name. In the uproar of cheers and waving of handkerchiefs I could not find Uncle Eb for a moment. When I saw him in the breaking crowd he was cheering lustily and waving his hat above his head. His enthusiasm increased when I stood before him. As I was greeting him I heard a lively rustle of skirts. Two dainty gloved hands laid hold of mine. A sweet voice spoke my name. There beside me stood the tall, erect figure of Hope. Our eyes met, and before there was any thinking of propriety, I had her in my arms and was kissing her, and she was kissing me. It thrilled me to see the splendor of her beauty that day, her eyes wet with feelings as they looked up at me, to feel again the trembling touch of her lips. In a moment I turned to Uncle Eb. "Boy," he said, "I thought you—" and then he stopped and began brushing his coat sleeve. "Come on now," he added as he took my grip away from me. "We're going to have a grand good time. I'll take you all to a splendid tavern somewheres. And I ain't going to count the cost neither." He was determined to carry my grip for me. Hope had a friend with her who was going north in the morning on our boat. We crossed the ferry and took a Broadway omnibus, while query followed query. "Makes me feel like a flapjack to ride in them things," said Uncle Eb as we got out. He hired a parlor and 2 bedrooms for us all at the St. Nicholas. "Purty middlin' steep," he said to me as we left the office. "It is, certain, but I don't care, not a bit. When folks has to have a good time, they've got to have it." We were soon seated in our little parlor. There was a great glow of health and beauty in Hope's face. It was a bit fuller, but had nobler outlines and a coloring as delicate as ever. She wore a plain gray gown admirably fitted to her plump figure. There was a new and splendid dignity in her carriage, her big blue eyes, her nose with its little upward slant. She was now the well-groomed young woman of society in the full glory of her youth. Uncle Eb, who sat between us, pinched her cheek playfully. A little spot of white showed a moment where his fingers had been. Then the pink flooded over it. "Never see a girl such a smack as you did," he said, laughing. "Well," said she, smiling, "I guess I gave as good as I got." "Served him right," he said. "You kissed back good and hard. Grand sport," he added, turning to me. "Best I ever had," was my humble acknowledgment. "Seldom ever see a girl kissed so powerful," he said as he took Hope's hand in his. "Now, if the Bible said when a body kissed ye on one cheek, you must turn the other I wouldn't find no fault. But there's a heap o' difference 'tween a whack and a smack." When we had come back from dinner, Uncle Eb drew off his boots and sat comfortably in his stocking feet, while Hope told of her travels and I of my soldiering. She had been at the conservatory nearly the whole period of her absence, and hastened home when she learned of the battle and of my wound. She had landed 2 days before. Hope's friend and Uncle Eb went away to their rooms in good season. Then I came and sat beside Hope on the sofa. "Let's have a good talk," I said. There was an awkward bit of silence. "Well," said she, her fan upon her lips, Tell me more about the war." "Tired of war," I answered. "Love is a better subject." She rose and walked up and down the room, a troubled look in her face. I thought I had never seen a woman who could carry her head so proudly. "I don't think you are very familiar with it," said she presently. "I ought to be," I answered, "having loved you all these years." "But you told me that you loved another girl," she said, her elbow leaning on the mantel, her eyes looking down soberly. "When? Where?" I asked. "In Mrs. Fuller's parlor." "Hope," I said, "you misunderstood me. I meant you." She came toward me then, looking up into my eyes. I started to embrace her, but she caught my hands, and held them apart and came close to me. "Did you say that you meant me?" she asked in a whisper. "I did." "Why did you not tell me that night?" "Because you would not listen to me, and we were interrupted." "Well, if I loved a girl," she said, "I'd make her listen." "I would have done that, but Mrs. Fuller saved you." "You might have written," she suggested in a tone of injury. "I did." "And the letter never came, just as I feared." She looked very sober and thoughtful then. "You know our understanding that day in the garden," she added. "If you did not ask me again I was to know you did not love me any longer. That was long, long ago." "I never loved any girl but you," I said. "I love you now, Hope, and that is enough. I love you so there is nothing else for me. You are dearer than my life. It was the thought of you that made me brave in battle. I wish I could be as brave here. But I demand your surrender. I shall give you no quarter now." "I wish I knew," she said, "whether you really love me or not." "Don't you believe me, Hope?" "Yes, I believe you," she said, "but you might not know your own heart." "It longs for you," I said. "It keeps me thinking of you always. Once it was so easy to be happy. Since you have been away it has seemed as if there were no longer any light in the world or any pleasure. It has made me a slave. I did not know that love was such a mighty thing." "Love is no Cupid, he is a giant," she said, her voice trembling with emotion as mine had trembled. "I tried to forget and he crushed me under his feet as if to punish me." She was near to crying now, but she shut her lips firmly and kept back the tears. God grant me I may never forget the look in her eyes that moment. She came closer to me. Our lips touched. My arms held her tightly. "I have waited long for this," I said. "The happiest moment of my life. I thought I had lost you." "What a foolish man," she whispered. "I have loved you for years and years, and you could not see it, I believe now." She hesitated a moment, her eyes so close to my cheek I could feel the beat of their long lashes. "That God made you for me," she added. "Love is God's helper," I said. "He made us for each other." "I thank him for it. I do love you so," she whispered. The rest is the old, old story. They that have not lived it are to be pitied. When we sat down at length, she told me what I had long suspected, that Mrs. Fuller wished her to marry young Livingston. "But for Uncle Eb," she added, "I think I should have done so, for I had given up all hope of you." "Good old Uncle Eb," I said. "Let's go and tell him." He was sound asleep when we entered his room, but woke as I lit the gas. "What's the matter?" he whispered, lifting his head. "Congratulate us," I said. "We're engaged." "Have you conquered her?" he inquired, smiling. "Love has conquered us both," I said. "Well, I swan! Is that so?" he answered. "Guess I won't fool away any more time here in bed. If you children'll go into the other room, I'll slip into my trousers, and then you'll hear me talk some conversation." "Beats the world," he continued, coming in presently, buttoning his suspenders. "I thought most likely you'd hitch up together some time. 'Tain't often you can find a pair so well matched. The same style and gaited just about alike. When you going to get married?" "She hasn't named the day," I said. "Sooner the better," said Uncle Eb as he drew on his coat and sat down. "Used to be so't when a young couple had set up and held each other's hands a few nights they was ready for the minister. Wisht you could fix it for 'bout Christmas time, by jingo! They's other things goin' to happen then. S'pose you're happy now you can stan' a little bad news. I've got to tell you. David's been losin' money. Hain't ever wrote ye 'bout it, not a word, 'cause I didn't know how 'twas comin' out." "How did he lose it?" I inquired. "Well, you know that Ow Barker runs a hardware store in Migleyville? He sold him a patent right. Figured and argued night and day for more'n 3 weeks. It was a new fangled wash boiler. David he thought he see a chance if put out agents and make a great deal o' money. It did look just as easy as slidin' down hill, but when we come slide, well, we found out he was at the bottom of the hill, 'stid of the top, and it wasn't real good slidin'. He paid $5,000 for the right o' 10 counties. Then bym by, Barker he wanted him to go security for 1,500 bilers that he was havin' made. I told David he hadn't better go in deeper, but Barker he promised big things, and seemed to be such a nice man that finally David he up and done it. Wall, he's had 'em to pay fer, and the fact is it costs so much to sell 'em it eats up all the profits." "Looks like a swindle," I said indignantly. "No," said Uncle Eb. "'Tain't no swindle. Barker thought he had a grand good thing. He got fooled, and the fool complaint is very catchin'. Got it myself years ago, and I've been doctorin' fer it ever since." The story of David's undoing hurt us sorely. He had gone the way of most men who left the farm late in life with unsatisfied ambition. "They shall never want for anything so long as I have my health," I said. "I have $400 in the bank," said Hope, "and shall give them every cent of it." "'Tain't nothin' to worry over," said Uncle Eb. "If I don't never lose more'n a little money I shan't feel terrible bad. We're all young yet. Got more'n $1,000,000 worth of good health right here in this room. So well I'm 'shamed of it. Man's more decent if he's a little bit sickly. An' that there girl Bill's agreed to marry ye. Why, 'druther have her 'n this hull city o' New York." "So had I," was my answer. "Well, you ain't no luckier 'n she is, not a bit," he added. "A good man's better 'n a gold mine every time." "Who knows?" said Hope. "He may be president some day." "There's one thing I hate," Uncle Eb continued. "That's the idea of havin' the woodshed 'n barn 'n garret full o' them infernal wash boilers. Ye can't take no decent care of a hoss there in the stable they're so piled up. One of 'em tumbled down top o' me t'other day. 'Druther 'twould have been a panther. Made me so mad I took a club and knocked that boiler into a cocked hat. 'Tain't right. I'm sick of the sight of 'em." "They'll make a good bonfire some day," said Hope. "Don't believe they'd burn," he answered sorrowfully. "They're tin." Couldn't we bury them? I suggested. Be a pretty costly funeral, he answered thoughtfully. You'd have to dig a hole deeper'n Tupper's dingle. Couldn't you give them away? I inquired. Well, said he, helping himself to a chew of tobacco, we've tried that. Given 'em to everybody we know, but there ain't folks enough there, such a slew of them boilers. We could give one to every man, woman, and child in Faraway, and have enough left to fill an acre lot. Dan Perry drove in t'other day with a double buggy. We gi'n him one for his own family. It was heavy to carry, and he didn't seem to like the looks of it some way. Then I asked him if he wouldn't like one for his girl. She ain't married, says he. She will be some time, says I. Take it along. So he put in another. You've got a sister over on the turnpike, hain't you? Says I. Yes, says he. Well, I says, don't want to have her feel slighted. She won't know 'bout my having 'em, says he, looking as if he'd had enough. Yes, she will, I says. She'll hear of it and maybe make a fuss. Then we piled in another. Look here, I says after that, there's your brother Bill up there above you. Take one along for him. No, says he, I don't tell everybody, but Bill and I ain't on good terms. We ain't spoke for more'n a year. Knew he was lyin', Uncle Eb added with a laugh. I'd seen him talkin' with Bill a day or two before. Whew! He whistled as he looked at his big silver watch. I declare, it's most 1 o'clock. They's just one other piece of business to come before this meetin'. Double or single, want you both promise me to be home for Christmas. We promised. Now, children, said he, it's time to go to bed. Believe you'd stand there swappin' kisses till you was knee-sprung if I didn't tell you to quit. Hope came and put her arms about his neck, fondly, and kissed him good night. Did Bill prance right up like a man? He asked, his hand upon her shoulder. Did very well, said she, smiling, for a man with a wooden leg. Uncle Eb sank into a chair, laughing heartily and pounding his knee. It seemed he had told her I was coming home with a wooden leg. That is the reason I held your arm, she said. I was expecting to hear it squeak every moment as we left the depot. But when I saw that you walked so naturally, I knew Uncle Eb had been trying to fool me. Pretty good sort of a lover, ain't he? Said he, after we were done laughing. He wouldn't take no for an answer, she answered. He was always a gritty cuss, said Uncle Eb, wiping his eyes with a big red handkerchief as he rose to go. You'd oughter be mighty happy, and you will, too. There ain't no doubt of it, not a bit. Trouble with most young folks is they want to fly too high these days. If they'd only fly close enough to the ground so they could always touch one foot, they'd be all right. Glad ye ain't that kind. We were off early on the boat, as fine a summer morning as ever dawned. What with the grandeur of the scenery and the sublimity of our happiness, it was a delightful journey we had that day. I felt the peace and beauty of the fields, the majesty of the mirrored cliffs and mountains, but the fair face of her I loved was enough for me. Most of the day Uncle Eb sat near us, and I remember a woman evangelist came in and took a seat beside him a while, talking volubly of the scene. My friend, said she presently, are you a Christian? Fore I answer, I'll have to tell you a story, said Uncle Eb. I recollect a man by the name of Ranny over in Vermont. He was a pious man. Got into an argument and a feller slapped him in the face. Ranny turned t'other side and then t'other and the feller kept a slappin' hot and heavy. It was just like strappin' a razor for half a minute. Then Ranny sailed in, givin' him the wust lickin' he ever had. 'I declare,' says another man, after 'twas all over, 'I thought you was a Christian.' 'Am, up to a certain point,' says he. 'Can't go too far, not in these parts. Men are too powerful. 'Twon't do 'less you want to die sudden.' When he begun poundin' of me, I see I wasn't exactly prepared. 'Fraid it's a good deal that way with most of us. We're Christians up to a certain point. For one thing, I think if a man stands still and see himself knocked into the next world, he's a little too good for this." The good lady began to preach and argue. For an hour Uncle Eb sat listening, unable to get in a word. When at last she left him he came to us, a look of relief in his face. "I believe," said he, "if Balaam's ass had been rode by a woman, he never'd have spoke." "Why not?" I inquired. "Never have had a chance," Uncle Eb added. We were 2 weeks at home with Mother and Father and Uncle Eb. It was a delightful season of rest, in which Hope and I went over the sloping roads of Faraway and walked in the fields and saw the harvesting. She had appointed Christmas Day for our wedding, and I was not to go again to the war, for now my first duty was to my own people. If God prospered me, they were all to come to live with us in town, and, though slow to promise, I could see it gave them comfort to know we were to be for them ever a staff and refuge. And the evening before we came back to town, Jed Feary was with us, and Uncle Eb played his flute and sang the songs that had been the delight of our childhood. The old poet read these lines written in memory of old times in Faraway and of Hope's girlhood. "The red was in the clover and the blue was in the sky. There was music in the meadow, there was dancing in the rye. An' I heard a voice a callin' to the flocks of Faraway, an' its echo in the wooded hills, Good day, good day, good day. Oh, fair was she, my lady love, an' lithe as the willow tree, An' my heart remembers well her parting words to me. An' I was sad as a beggar man, but she was blithe and gay, An' I think o' her as I call the flocks, Good day, good day, good day. Her cheeks they stole the Dover's red, her lips the odored air, An' the glow o' the mornin' sunlight she took away in her hair. Her voice had the meadow music, her form and her laughing eye Have taken the blue o' the heavens and the grace o' the bending rye. My love has robbed the summer day, the field, the sky, the dell. She has taken their treasures with her, she has taken my heart as well. An' if ever in the further fields her feet should go astray, May she hear the good God calling her, Good day, good day, good day." End of chapter 40. Recording by Roger Moline.